Alright guys, welcome back to another Mask Elemental video. Today, we're going to go over, Battle Hardened, Orlando, top 4 and top 8, because kind of quick games, so I'm just going to go over both of them. But I'm going over both of them because I very enjoy watching Kano and playing Kano, obviously, as everybody knows. And I think analyzing games that are super quick, even though you're like, oh, you just killed him on turn, on the first couple turns, like how much thinking is behind there. But I'm gonna try to break down everything that you would possibly be thinking while making these combo turns, and just a lot more of that stuff, because I think there was a lot of discourse on Twitter, especially in this last week, talking about how oh, people don't like playing against Kano specifically. And yes, your opponent may be playing solitaire by himself for 1 to 2 turns, because Kano wants to condense all of his thinking into one turn while you think throughout the entire game. And that's basically not a bad thing at all. It's just you got to understand that he's going to think on 1 to 2 turns to dictate the game, and you're going to think on every turn. But if he doesn't have to think every single turn, then it's perfectly fine, right? So let's get into it and let's see some of this. Some of it going. I'm going to obviously mute casters on this one because people don't understand Kano. So let's see, let's get into it. But obviously this top 4, he is playing against Mara. What Mara? I'm sorry, I forget. I think it's Mara. But something that interesting about her list too is that she was playing AB0. I think when I was going over the list in the realm 20k, I read her list and I was like, damn, this really does just have AB0 and you're just trying there. But I had a quick conversation, and they were talking about how they're trying to just implement the game to just be basically, I'm gonna play 3 turns, I will kill you eventually, or you kill me, and that's basically it. And that's how it's gonna go, right? We got the little baby ash wing covering the camera here. That's really cool. I like looking at the art and stuff like that. Like these altars are super nice as well. So it's cool to see the little stuff that going into the game as well as Marvel Kano, dude. How it can honestly, I think Marvel Kano is just by far the best Marvel there is. No bias here, obviously, no bias. But yeah, just I like all the art in Flesh and Blood so much that I like how they did the Marvels for the old heroes. I wish they were in English though, because I've had to bring English copies of cards to tournaments because people don't know what Kano does sometimes, which is very weird. But I did hear recently that JP's getting starter decks, and we'll probably get JP language cards, and I can't wait to make my Kano deck in Japanese and just have everybody not actually know what the card does, and I literally can't wait. Can't wait. Alright, so we're starting this game. Mara's going to play Tome. Something that you should do is Kano in response to Tome, especially because the E-Pod doesn't block, so it's not going to get any value here as well. It's going to make it so the possibility of you for finding sand cover specifically, because she will make the ash after she pitches. You can respond to the ash generation, but it is better if you do something a little bit more specific here. So as we look here, obviously he Kano's hits Wildfire, and then Kano's and hits Blazing, which is 2/3 of the combo here, which is pretty incredible, I'll have to say. And then he's using 2 blues, and I believe he might have 2 more blues. I don't know if the dart is a red or a blue, but obviously this is an incredible start, right? But the thought process behind it is, because of Tome's going to make ash generation and then do that, you don't want to play into sand cover specifically. So you would have to force your opponent to, you play Tome, then you have to pitch, onto Furnace to make that ash in response to that first spell, and then you can sand cover, right? What's that going to do is it's going to force 3 cards out of your opponent's hand at the very initial, only having 1 card left in her hand after you sand cover. So it's just going to make it so even when you draw the 2 cards off Tome, then she's going to pitch 2 cards, obviously. Then you only have 1 card left in your hand as well, so you can't really get punished as much. Although we are fully committing here with the Ragmuffin's Hat, which I believe is, kind of the correct assumption we should do here as well. The Kano is going to put it down, I believe. I still don't know what color it is because it is very hard to think. But something pretty interesting here as well is that we have 2/0/0, and we're not popping the Spellfire Cloak to pump this Wildfire an extra 1, right? So something with the Wildfire combo is that it's amplify. It's what's the word? It amplifies per like damage that you do for blazing, because blazing says deal X damage for the X amount of damage that you've done this turn. Wildfire then pluses for the amount of damage it does for the entire turn as well. So the more damage you do in Wildfire, the more damage you're gonna do for the entire chain. Something that it is. The start is red. Okay, so it was a little risky to go there because he has to hit a yellow or a blue to be able to do this. But for example here, Wildfire's going to hit for 3. I think they forget to do the dice here, and then they call it back here. But Wildfire hits for 3. The red dart is going to hit for 6 because of it. And then the Wildfire is going to hit because we've done 9 damage. It's going to do 12, so it's going to be 21 damage in total here. But if he, say, would have pumped that Spellfire Cloak, as you see, Wildfire would have done 4, and then it would have been 7. And then it would have been 11 plus 5. Plus 4, which is 15, right? So you're doing 26 on that equation, for example. So you're losing out on a significant amount of damage because you didn't pump with the Spellfire Cloak. Keeping the Spellfire Cloak without the Ragamuffin hat is like, whatever it is. But I think you should always try to use the Cloak to, crucible this Wildfire when you can, because of the amount of damage that you're going to deal beforehand. Because right now, we're only doing 21, versus you can get them down 4 points more into 15. So that is it 5 points? Is it 4 or 5 points? I always forget. Same thing. You're going to get her down, 4 or 5 points more, and you're going to take a whole bunch of damage here. But killing somebody at 19 and killing somebody at 15 is completely different. Although we are going to be able to, we're basically playing this turn on our turn, and then finally we're going to play on, again, Mario's second, well, this is turn 0, we're going to play on turn 1, and we're going to play on turn 2 of this game as well, and you're just going to try to kill in 3 turns. You only have to do 19 damage in the next 2 turns, and you have, Storm Shatters, which is really, really good. Something else is that you have 30 life to play with, so if she doesn't hit a very good cards, then you're just vastly ahead, right? Obviously, if you have watched this game, she's very, very well. This is one of the worst dragons that you could see after doing this line specifically, because this is the only way she can race and kill you on the second turn, right? There's not a lot of cards that actually kill you here, or put enough pressure on you here as well. So yes, Kano high rolls this turn specifically to do obviously 21 damage on there, but this one, the Asvali, who cares? It's 3 damage. It really doesn't do anything. This is not the dragon that you care about. The first dragon is the one that you care about because it's new 4 damage plus give you another card, which, as you see, the other card is Nourishing, which is extremely good to hit on this turn as well. So yes, Kano hit really well, but also Dromai hit really well this turn, so it kind of evens out on this point. But Kano's still vastly ahead, because when you look at 17 versus 19, the Kano would always rather be this close in life totals than anything else. So here we go. But that was also her turn, and she still hasn't seen a sand cover, and Kano gets to draw up and then keep playing as well on this time. So let's see what else happens now happened on Julian's turn. So you can't set up a significant thing without the Ragamuffins. If you draw a red, you can't just place it on top anymore. But we have, looks like 2 blues, a spindle, and a tome, which is quite nice as well. So he's trying to think. It's not a is not a significant amount of damage because it's just Spindle plus whatever you find on top. And you really can't play the Yellow Tome either. And the Yellow Tome going into Arsenal, you know, your opponent has a 5-card hand plus 2 dragons on the field as well. Unless your plan is to like kind of full block out entirely, you're not like, you know, at three cards from your hand, and then you can play Tome, you know, gain 2 life, and then, you know, Kano one more time. Maybe you put, if you draw a red, put it in like the Arsenal or something like that. It's not really a strong turn, right? So this Yellow Tome, although it is very good, isn't really like the best card to see here. But the Spindle is going to be able to kind of filter what we need to see. This is also a Yellow Spindle, which was a direct replication of knowing that people aren't going to be playing AB, which is where it really shines. It does 1 or less damage than the other ones, but as you can see, if I can peek on the stuff, there's like a Deja Vu potion, there's a Deja potion, there's a Gaze that I saw, and I believe it's 2 more blues, maybe just quad blue on top. Obviously, there's 2 possibilities. One, you want to be able to set up a lot of damage to basically, you had to basically kill Mara on the following turn at 15, right? We didn't see a lot of damage on, you know, that 4. So because we didn't see damage on that 4, the next best option is to see if we can get a lot of blues to play off the top on the following turn. Accidentally, you know, flips it that way, but it's all good. He's going to leave all 4 on top, so what Julian sees here is going to be that second line, right? He's going to Kano, specifically, he's going to play that Potion of Deja Vu. Then, because we have the Yellow Tome here, you can plus resources, and you can get, you can leave 3 blues on top. Then you can do the Potion Deja Vu thing to then put multiple blues and that Yellow Tome on top to draw the blues to 100%, and then gain the additional resources because you already know those blues are on the top, so you're always going to hit a blue, and you're always going to draw 2 blues off that Tome, which is really nice here. So basically, you're going to try to hope that you can hit some really good things off the top, but if you whiff, you can then try to, you know, go to block after the fact. Unfortunately, what you see here is because Snatch comes through, this is going to be the second way Maro can additionally draw cards as well with the Kyloria, and then now with the Snatch Snatching Scalers, and because Kano doesn't have armor to block, you know, these breakpoints at all, there's not really much that you can do to stop this, so you pretty much have to do the Deja Vu, you know, Tome line, right? The Deja Vu Tome line is basically pitching the cards that you want to see, then hitting them on top because Deja Vu puts them there. Potion Deja Vu basically is like Ragamuffins, is also just like a pseudo Ragamuffins, right? That's why you play it, because of all the advantages that it will give you by just looking at it, right? That is something that is quite good, especially when you play Kano specifically and hit Deja Vu. Might not be as there's downsides, obviously, putting potions in your deck. Don't block, don't hit Balsamic Boom, stuff like that. But it is quite nice to see. It's quite nice to see opportunities like this and really cool plays that Deja Vu allows you to do, as you've seen in Kano games in the past that we've covered on this channel as well. So with that Gaze, we got the double blue. So we have Gaze, 2 more blues, and the Tome, right? So you can stack a whole bunch of Kano activations here. So he's actually on a Kano before he does this this Tome, because specifically you can do some very cool things because you're gonna hit this card anyways. So Kanoing here isn't bad, but it does force you to use whatever blue first when you put the cards on top, right? So what you can do here is he has another blue Gaze and then that Yellow Tome. Basically can always stack getting that yellow Tome on top, drawing the other 2 blues, then hitting Gaze to opt even more, and then you can Spindle on top to opt even more off of that, and Gaze is just going to be a redraw hit, which is really nice, right? That is something that's like super cool at this line as well. So here he comes through, he's going to Spindle for that 5. So he's going to do 5 tomorrow, and then he gets to opt this 5. So what he sees here specifically is he has that blazing. He sees a Aether flare, 2 blues, and that yellow lesson in lava as well. Basically, all he has to do is stack multiple Kano activations to get that red flare, that blazing, and to get that tome to draw additional cards, and that gaze to get come back if you want to, because you have to, you know, and you don't even have to use Storm Shatters here, because there's really nothing. There's nothing to Storm Shatters, right? Like this play is without even using one of the most powerful equipment in the game, Storm Shatters, at all, because you don't even need to. So he can honestly just top all these 5. He needs to put it back in a position to where he can hit that red Aether Flare and that red blazing, and then it's always going to be lethal because of the amount of damage he's done this turn. He's always going to draw the blues off the yellow tome because you can deja vu right there. He's just thinking 100% of what line you can do here. So the line will be is pitching the yellow tome and the blue to then, you know, the yellow tome and the gaze to Kano. You deja vu everything back, so the Kano hits the tome, which will leave you with 1 more resource. After you play the tome, you draw the two blues. You can then Kano the gaze will come back to your hand. You don't need to opt because the stuff that you want to see is already on top. Then you can Kano additional 2 times, which is going to hit that red Aether Flare and then that blazing, and then you can be able to play for the flare with the one which is floating. You can also spell fire to Metacarpus nodes that flare, so it does an additional 1 damage, and then that blazing will always kill from this position. So let's watch Julian go through it here. So he's going to have that 1 Kano on the stack, then he's going to deja vu here. Obviously, ordering it in the way there. You know, you put the gaze on the very bottom because you want to hit the gaze. You put the tome on the very top because that's the first thing you want to hit. That Kano doesn't resolve. Hit that yellow tome. Draw 2. Kano. Hit the gaze. Gaze here. Now, something unique about this situation is that he needed to, if he didn't have gaze in his hand, he couldn't have blind Kano'd first, right? He would have had to done the tome play and then Kano, because there'd be too many blues in the way, because you want to draw the exact same 2 blues here, and this is going to be lethal with that blazing as well. Because of this time, the spindle into the flare, into the blazing, which is lethal, which is quite nice. So this is going to be 5, and then 4. This is basically, you're just going to double this because it's flare that doubles the next one, so it's going to be 8 damage, then this is going to be 13, and then 26 damage, because, well, 10 here, 8, 18 damage. Alright, now let's go look at the finals here, if we skip ahead a little bit, to where, now we're playing against another, let me skip a little bit further, we're hitting against another AB0 deck, which is going to be this Uzuri. Sometimes they play AB0, sometimes they play an amount of AB. Uniquely, Julian did pick to go first in this matchup, but he went second versus Mara. Usually when I think about playing against these AB0 or AB1 decks, you want to go first, because then you can play on this turn 0. If you draw up, they're not going to do a lot of damage to you. You can play on their turn, you can play on your turn again, and then you can play on their turn. So you're just taking way more turns than your opponent every single time, and then it's always just going to be able to do more. So you should be going first if you know your opponent's playing like AB0 or AB1. Going second is always better against the higher AB decks, because you're not really going to do any damage to them on turn 0, but you can strip those cards off if you go second to get you a little bit, just to make it a little bit better and easier on the previous turn here. So doesn't hit really well off the top because it's going to be blue and we're scolding. It is his turn as well. So it looks like he has 3 more blues in his hand as well, which is kind of awkward because you don't really want to arsenal any of these blues, but you're going to pretty much have to, right? So he's just going to start with this Golding that's going to come in for 2 damage and just chip your opponent a little bit. And then he's going to cast the Gaze from his hand because then he gets to see the cards off top. So he looks... Also, uniquely, you don't want a Crucible here because if you do that, you can't hit a 1 cost off the top when this Gaze goes back to your hand, and you have to use both those blues. The last one in his hand, I believe, is a Flare, if I'm looking at it correctly, or whatever the last card, right? The Flare, you know, maybe not going to be the best. It's not really the best to put in Arsenal, Blue Flare, but if you do find the combo eventually, it says it's perfectly fine. And then it's a little bit of a bad first turn because you're only doing 4 damage, especially when you're 4 damage versus AB0 is like 1 spell, and because you hit 2 blues, it was 2 spells, so you're missing out on a lot of damage, right? But as you see here, uniquely, it is a little weird that he didn't just play Rabble and then pitch the other 2 cards in his hand to play Shakedown, so his 10, so he's losing like 4 points of damage here, which is a little weird. But because it's Shakedown specifically, you would have to block with 2 cards here. And your hand is I double 2 block 3 block, so you really can't block this as well. Thing is you can do significantly more than 6 damage to your opponent on this turn, and you're always going to win this race. This is why Kano loves playing against AB0 and AB1, because no matter what your opponent does, he has to full on race you, because the more turns that you give Kano, you're just gonna like infinitely die, but you can die at any turn, so you should just race them. Just AB0 and just full on race if this is going to be strategy, but you can always get stacked on, you can always get pretty much killed off a lot of these things. He has double tome here, which is not the best, but one of those cards that we see is a wildfire on the bottom here. So we have a blue, a tome, and another tome, 1 yellow, 1 red. We're canoeing on the stack with that Eye of Ophidia as well. We need to dump all these cards basically for that shakedown, or you can block with 1 card, or like you basically are just gonna make it so shakedown doesn't have anything on top. But we do see the wildfire here. Okay, no, a second time you see the gaze. That's really, really good. Something that you can do here is that you can activate Crucible with the yellow tome, and then you can Ragamuffin's Hat to put the red tome on top as well. But it comes with some inherent risks, right? If you hit a red, it's a little bit awkward, but basically if you Crucible here and then that wildfire, you don't hit a red off the top with Ragamuffin's Hat, which is the best opportunity, then you do a substantial amount of damage to your opponent. You see Julian not understanding, well, not understanding, but very contemplating if he should activate Crucible or not, because if you do hit the red, you basically not throw the game, but it is very hard for you to do a lot of the stuff. But because you can stack correctly here, you can use this gaze in response to that wildfire, in response to the Metacarpus nodes trigger as well. So now you can make sure that what you're drawing is always going to be perfect, right? So you see it's blue, yellow here on top, one of them being Lesson in Lava specifically, right? And then he has, that red tome. So that gaze is going to pop back to his hand, and then you basically can draw these top 2 cards with their resources cards, and then Kano 1 more time, and then you'd be able to play, the flare that's in our arsenal and Storm Shudders, and do cast additional spells here. We just have to see what else we have specifically. So Kano's hits that lesson. Now we can Ragamuffins. draw that blue card that we know is on top, put the red card back, put the red tome on top, then you can use this red tome. Red tome, draw 2. If you hit multiple blues, it's always lethal, which he does hit, because now we can buff this node, we can play that lesson, the flare that's in our arsenal, as well as the lesson, and then get Blazing Aether to do way more than 36 damage this turn, which is incredible because of the Blazing Aether and the Wildfire and the Tome. We have the additional Spellfire Cloak as well. So we've kind of mastered this puzzle at this time, because you know, 1 blue is going to get you that Kano activation, which is going to get you that Blazing Aether, and then we have that other 3 resources to do that Lesson of Lava, the boots, and the card in the arsenal, and then you have that Spellfire Cloak to then buff up this Wildfire specifically to get it to do 5 instead of doing 4, which is to give you enough damage throughout this entire thing. So Wildfire's gonna hit for 5. Tom's gonna go to 31. Then you're gonna use the Storm Shutters. Oh, not that card. You cannot legally cast that card. Into the Spellfire, the Aether Flare from Arsenal, which is going to do another 6, putting him to 25. Then we're going to Spellfire Cloak that Lesson of Lava. It's going to be plus 11, so it's going to be 14 damage. This is going to get that Blazing. And then Blazing is going to come through 14, 20, 25, 30 damage here. So you did 30, 44, 50, 55. So you see that yes, you can kill people on turn 0 and turn 1, multiple games in a row as Kano, but there's a lot of moving pieces going around, a lot of sequencing that you have to do specifically, and all that. There's a lot of it. That is like, you know, the main thing with Kano is that you get to see an amazing puzzle every single game, and you get to uniquely just be able to play a game that your hero is literally the only hero in the game that can do it. So it is very, very fun to watch Kano and to play Kano, and I hope people appreciate the deck more, especially in metas in the future that seem really pretty good for Kano as well. We'll have to see how Heavy Hitters impacts the meta as well, and that, you know, all the cards that are going to come out in the expansion slot and in the set to see how Kano reacts to them in the decks in that format. But I'm pretty excited to see that Kano finally gets to have more of a limelight in a meta, and people can always just bring Erases and be able to do able to prevent a significant amount of damage from Kano that will help their game plan against him as well. So thank you guys for watching this little breakdown of some Kano games from Julian. Amazing player, had him on the channel, watched that interview that we did, a lot of insight, a lot of great times with him as well, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. See ya.